Okay.
That's good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Vectra podcast. I'm Zoey. We're here with Gearoid. Hi, Gearoid.
Hey, how are you doing, Zoe?
Hey. We're going to talk about the Vectra AI Analyst experience today, and specifically about our Vectra AI platform on the Respond UX. So, Gearoid, wanted to ask you, what is considered the analyst experience?
Yeah, good question. So the analyst experience is making sure that the people who have to actually look at detections that Vectra has fired have as good an experience as possible. So, I mean, these guys are the people in the trenches. They need to come in every day. If they have a 24/7 follow the sun style model, they're maybe checking in for cover all over the day, all over the world. These guys
Mm-hmm.
come in, they see Vectra has prioritized an alert based on our behavioral detections, and their job is to investigate it and see if it's something serious or it's something that, they can look into as benign or there's an easy remediation for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so how does Vectra do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we do is we detect it. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but the key point is Vectra uses AI-driven behavioral analysis to fire really high-quality detections that we then aggregate together and say, hey, we've seen this host or this account has performed multiple suspicious activities, and you need to look into it. For the analyst, when they come in, they're going to see the respond page. This is our attempt at making the simplest possible interface where they can come in the morning and they can basically figure out what they need to work on. In this view, they're going to see every single host or account from any attack service that Vectra offers coverage for, be it SaaS, identity, network, public cloud. We'll basically say, hey, we've seen activity across all of these attack surfaces, and this thing right here is the thing you need to look at first. We'll prioritize it for you, and you can basically say really clearly, well, which one do I need to look into first?
Yeah, it's even color coded. So like red, it's really, really important. And then, so
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The urgency score is exactly that. The joke we have internally, it goes like red, orange, yellow. Red is before coffee, orange is after coffee, and yellow is after breakfast. That's our system.
Mhm.
It's always so rare enough. Obviously, for the purposes of this podcast, we've intentionally gotten hacked. But in most cases, you come in the morning, you have one or two oranges. It's always nice to be able to go off and get your coffee first and then come
Yeah,
back and start to investigate.
absolutely. I think the cool thing about Vectra is that it's built by a lot of seasoned security professionals. So everyone sort of understands very deeply about the SOC analyst experience. So that's why, you had your little red, orange, yellow inside joke. All right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what does an analyst do next on the Vectra AI platform? And we're hinting at it on the slides right here.
Exactly that. So you find out, okay, Vector thinks I need to look into these alerts. Which of these is the top priority? Pretty clear, top of the list, just like your email inbox. You click through, and now Vector is answering or giving you the information you need to investigate it properly. And the questions are, who is this? What do they do? And why should I care? They're the three questions that any analyst is going to ask about any investigation you need to perform. And Vectra have done a lot of work to make it so that all that information is right there in front of you. If you look in the top left, entity info. This tells you all the key information that you need about the host that's been prioritized in this case. You can see that we've seen detections across the network. If you have any tags that we've applied, say for example, in this case, Fictotech is the company that this is a part of within our org. The group it's in the data center, so we know that this is a data center based machine, and then we also can see the last seen IP. The second question, once I know who this is what do they do? And for that, the detections are right there. For this case, we've seen hidden HTTPS tunnel, port sweep, suspicious LDAP queries, or PC recon, and some Kerber roasting. This is all really suspicious and really warrants further investigation. That third question, why should I care? I mean, in this case, at this point, you're probably already worried, but if you need to understand why Vectra thinks this is important, in the top right corner, we tell you why the urgency score is 100. In this case, the entity importance is high. And that means that you've told us, or Vectra has already figured out that this is a super high important entity, and this needs to be worried about as a priority. We also see the attack rating is 10 out of 10, and that's because this looks like an external adversary. And the velocity is high, it's moving really quickly.
Yeah.
These three factors, you have most of the information you need to be able to go and, well, I would suggest locking this down next, but definitely you have everything you need to do your investigation right there, right in front of you.
When you say that all these factors right here, the importance, the attack rating, the velocity, how does Vectra determine the threshold for these things? Or does the user determine it?
Yeah, of course. So for the importance, the user can tell us, hey, these machines are important, these machines are less important. If you have, for example, some domain controllers, you can just tell us, hey, this group, high importance. If you have, for example, some guest Wi-Fi network, you can just tell us anything in this IP range, we don't care. There's no way, there's no damage that can come from somebody in the guest Wi-Fi network getting hacked. That's quarantined. But on top of that, based on the activity we're seeing, if you consider like a Azure AD or Entra ID admin, they are going to be performing activities that only admins can perform. So we can observe their privilege and we can say, oh, well, you haven't told us this guy is an admin, but this guy has been performing a lot of admin-like activities, doing creating new users, resetting passwords. So we're gonna guess that this user is a high importance, even though you haven't told us about it.
Yeah. Okay. And it touches with our AI too, our AI models as well, right?
100%, yeah. Everything, it all feeds in together. We are foundationally big. Honestly, it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, of course, we just do like a Bayesian reduction across 34 axes to find the closest neighbor in terms of the attack profile. But, that's always like you can't forget sometimes that we do some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's true. All right, what's next? What does the analyst do next here?
Yeah, of course. So sometimes, like in the example before, it's really clear. Sometimes it's not. And so the thing you have to do is you have to go into the details. We make it as easy as possible so you can get all the context you need for the detections. But sometimes, and especially in Vector, because we're not just showing you, oh, well, this person has accessed this dodgy malware. Yeah, that's all very straightforward. We're saying we've seen behaviors which are suspicious and warrant investigation because they've done a specific number of specific activities that normal users wouldn't. And that's less black and white, it's much more of a gray area. So for that, we make sure that we give you everything you need to investigate. And that means investigating metadata. So anytime you see a detection in the Respond UX platform, with one quick click, you can see all the metadata around the detections. So you can see basically the main things that you need to know. And we'll actually tell you what the questions you should be asking are, what login attempts there were, what beacons there were, any kind of RDP accesses that are performed. These are the things that you'll want to know, and that means your analysts don't need to understand the query language. They don't need to understand even the metadata in too much detail. They just come in and go, well, let's have a look. What should I be worried about? But for those people who do want them more control, they can just investigate further, and boom, they have access to a really powerful investigation tool, which gives them full access to every single piece of metadata with every single field that they could need available to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it takes off like almost like the administrative workload for analysts when they have to build queries with our investigation tools. Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Exactly. And especially because now that there's so many attack surfaces, like I always find this myself, because if you're in a multi-cloud environment, if you have Azure, if you have AWS, you're popping in, you're like, okay, I want to know what they've done with, say, storage accounts. But that's an S3 in cloud in AWS. What's that called again? In Microsoft? Oh, I just did a quick Google. Oh, okay. So I search, and then it can be a real pain just even remembering the terminology for each of the cloud platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, our investigation tools or feature capabilities very, very powerful here. All right. So I'm assuming after you investigate, you dug deep, you want to respond to this threat now, right? On the platform. I think I'll take this one here. We have we have sort of like three categories on how Vectra responds to these threats. So we have our native responses, and it's primarily focused on lockdown, like Gearoid mentioned, like in the first section, seeing very clearly that this specific entity is high risk, high velocity, high importance. You kind of just want to lock it down, right? Our platform actually has an automatic lockdown, right, Gerald? An automatic lockdown where customers
Exactly
can
that.
set a threshold. Once it reaches that threshold, it just locks down, whether it's the Entra ID or Azure. I think it's just Entra ID right now,
It's
but
actually available for pretty much everything we have.
everything
The
now?
idea is
Okay.
just if you want it that you're worried that over the weekend, if you don't have 24/7 coverage or you're not able to rely on, say, a managed MDR service, then
Mhm.
you can just set up that if an entity goes over a certain threshold at the weekend, and we recommend setting it pretty high,
Yeah.
then you can
Mhm.
lock it down just to make sure that any attack is stopped before it does damage.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's really, really important too. I think we dove into this feature with Jordan in
Mhm.
a podcast last week. So if you want to check that out, it's on our playlist. But yes, that's our native response. So that's directly on our platform. We also have integrated responses too, or integrated response as well. There's something that we call the Vectra automated response framework, which is it's basically an immediate isolation response with our third-party connections. So once a threat reaches a certain threshold, an isolation response will commence based off of the third-party connector that you have. And these integrations are usually with SOARs or EDRs. So a good example would be like Splunk, excuse me, and it just automatically happens. And then what happens that next is that they will send a notification through, I believe, syslog to tell you about this, this threat or this response or how they respond to that threat. So it's really
Yeah,
cool. If you guys want to check it out, we do have a blog on the Vectra automated response framework and probably going to do a podcast later on as well. So our response works for a variety of security vendors here, right?
100%. If
Um,
you're a
yeah.
small company, then honestly, our native responses might work really well for you. It's
Mm.
right there, super simple to set up, like 2 minutes work. But if you're in a bigger enterprise and you're want to be able to make it work the way you want, the way you need it to work within your environment, the Vector Automated Response Framework is really powerful. It works basically
Mhm.
using APIs. I don't know anything which can't, with the APIs, you can make anything work,
Yeah,
any response you need.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And that leaves us with our last category. Let's just say that the native response, the integrated response is just not enough, and that you need the manual work of an expert to respond to threats. This is where our product Vectra MXCR comes in. We have our very seasoned, very experienced MXCR experts who can actually remotely respond and remediate to our EDR connections. Right now, we are connected with Microsoft Defender, Sentinel-1, and CrowdStrike. So basically, what happens here are, and Garo, please like jump in if you have any more information. But our MXDR analysts can actually see what's going on these EDRs on their internal tool, and then they can just go ahead based off of like the agreement with the customer how to respond to it. So they can lock down, they can like kill process, they can isolate hosts, all of the different types of responses, and they can just do it right on the spot for you, right?
Exactly that. They
Yeah.
won't just do response, though. They also do remediation, which is a critical
Right.
component.
Yeah.
So they'll lock it down, they'll stop the damage, but they'll also
Mhm.
set up the cleanup, which is really the EDR speciality, where it has direct access to the box. You can
Mm,
figure out exactly what things need to go, and then the MXDR team will cover that for you.
yeah. They're really awesome. Check us out on our product page for them. And I think I think that's it. Yeah. That's our analyst experience, right? Do you have any closing thoughts on that, Gerald?
No, I mean, it's all about making things as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Again, our aim is to make it that you can spend as little time in Vector as possible because you
Hmm.
don't want to be looking at detections for your entire day. You don't want to be on your fourth cup of coffee and still trying to figure out what, the 58th detection for that day is. You want to come in, you can rely on Vector. If something is important, we'll flag it to you. You
Yep.
maybe look at 1 or 2 detections a day, and then you move on and you can work on everything else
Yeah.
that's really important for you.
Yeah. Our job is to
Vector's job is to
simplify
make the
things.
world safer for you. My
Yep.
job in transforming analyst experience is to make it so you spend a lot less time with us.
Yes. That's awesome. All right. Thanks, Gareth, for joining me on the Vector podcast. Please check us out on YouTube. We have our playlist of threat briefings, platform innovations, rapid fire series. We have a lot of content out there. And if you haven't seen us already, we're also on Spotify as well. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks, Gareth, and bye,
Thanks for
everyone.
having me, Zoe.
Bye.